I really think you need to understand your data on the website as far as like what people are clicking on, what's the most highest visited pages, uh, how are they navigating or how are they using the menu, things like that. And so, like I said, the data is agnostic. It doesn't care um, what they're thinking, or it just tells you exactly what they're doing.
Are you a scaling SaaS founder? Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where boosting sales and engagement is less about shouting louder and more about showing up like you're getting a panic call from your favorite client. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. What if the secret to higher conversions wasn't more content or clever copy, but less of everything? In this episode, we're zeroing in on what really moves the needle: clarity, simplicity, and smart psychology. Because when it comes to selling online, flashy design and feature overload often get in the way of what your customers actually need: a frictionless, confidence-building path to purchase. We'll break down how removing clutter and tightening messaging leads to faster decision making and fewer abandons. You'll learn why micro commitments, like asking users to add or take a next step, can, instead of buy now, can ease customer hesitation and dramatically boost conversions. We'll also dive into the power of data-driven design. It's not about guessing, it's about watching where your users click, what they ignore, and how they move through your site. That intel, gold for refining your layout, content, and calls to action. You'll hear why businesses have to flip the script and look at their site through the customer's lens. Are you solving their problem or just showing off your features? And why testing isn't a one-time experiment, it's a continuous process that turns small wins into sustainable growth. If you're looking to improve conversions, reduce bounce rates, and create an experience that customers actually enjoy, this episode offers a refreshingly clear roadmap to better results. Let's get into it. Our founder on Tuesday was Rachel Edwards, the behavioral systems strategist behind the Strategic Personality Blueprint. Rachel broke down how personality data, when used respectfully, can help leaders hire better, build stronger teams, and reduce the staggering cost of misalignment. It was a deep dive into the psychology of work, the power of values-based alignment, and why most assessments just miss the mark. And our expert guest last week was Jeff Holman. He joined us to explain why every founder needs to think about legal before there's a problem. He shared how his fractional legal model is helping startups protect IP, document deals, and scale without friction, and why the smartest companies are integrating legal strategy as early as day one. If you missed either episode, go back and check those out. My guest today is Matthew Stafford, managing partner at Build, Grow, Scale, and a conversion optimization expert who's helped hundreds of brands scale past the 7 and even 8-figure mark. With 3 decades of entrepreneurial experience across industries like construction, print on demand, and SaaS, Matthew has seen what works and what doesn't, and also what doesn't at scale. He's worked with thousands of online sellers, spoken on major stages for the last 7 years, and leads one of the most respected optimization communities online. Welcome someone who's made a career out of turning clicks into conversions, Matthew Stafford.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you've built and scaled multiple businesses and helped lots of e-commerce stores cross 7 and 8 figures. What is it that pulled you into the science of conversion optimization in the first place?
Good question. I think it really stemmed out of my own need to figure it out, because I was really good at running ads, and uh, figured out that looking at the data on the website made my ads perform much better. And so it was really out of necessity. We had went from selling 200 to 300 sales a day. And then as I added stuff to the website, it got worse and worse. But it was over, a 4 or 5 month period. And I didn't, just the decline was continuing to happen. I kept trying to do other things to help it. And what I didn't realize is I was actually destroying the website until I paid a guy for 6 phone calls to teach me Google Analytics. And so we started monitoring what was happening on the site. And I had so many insights from that I went from no profitability, I went from profitability to no profitability to back to profitability by using the data and analytics. And for me, that was like, I geeked out on the problem solving part of it.
That's really cool. I think that's something that really separates what I've seen some people that do really, really well and others that they kind of do okay is, just a difference in mindset. Instead of throwing it over the fence or hiring somebody, hey, I've got this problem, go solve it for me, or hiring an expert, you took the opposite and you're saying, teach me how to do this, because you wanted to understand the problem and how to solve it and really understand what they were doing, not just let them go do it and make things great, but why it was great.
Yeah, I needed the foundation. I didn't need to be the expert in it, but I needed the foundation of the principles so that I could apply them. And I think that's pretty much how I address everything. I'm clearly, there's a lot of things I don't want to do, but I'm willing to do enough work to understand it to be dangerous, so that uh, the person that I do hire, I can actually hire a quality individual for it.
Really smart. And how long did you do that where you were doing it yourself versus hiring somebody else to do it?
For about 2 months, and then I hired a guy like as an assistant.
Okay.
And him and I, essentially what happened was he became the implementer, and I had the vision of what I wanted it to do. And so he was making it do that, and then we would gather the insights from it and see if it worked. And as we dialed the site back in, I had some other friends who had e-commerce sites too, and so I reached out to them and said, hey, I think we figured out some things. I'd love to like make sure that lightning just didn't just strike me once, and I got lucky. But if this works for you, like, I'm going to show you what my results are. So you don't even have to pay me. I just want to see if this is really replicatable. And so we did that, and we got amazing results with 2 other sites. One was Organifi, their testimonials on our website, and another one was a print on demand store that was doing about 400 grand a month. And within 6 months, we had them at 2.7 million a month.
Wow.
And so I was just like, yeah, this works. And that really became, I went deep down that rabbit hole and started serving people that way, and really enjoyed that a lot more than running Facebook ads.
Very cool. And in SaaS world, it was really, really common getting people on the site, want to get them signed up for a trial or, download our product, start using it, really kind of get them into that experience. What are some things that you've seen that work really well on sites and maybe some that don't work well that you would think probably would, but then they don't, to really get people across that threshold to say yes, getting the commitment?
Yeah, I think I have to be careful not to make it too cookie cutter, because I believe that sites are very contextual, depending on what they're selling, what their demographic is, whether the person needs to be educated, if they're already problem aware when they show up, or even solution aware. So what I typically try to do is, if they're already making sales, the very first thing that we do is we put a pop-up on their thank you page that says, what's the one thing that almost made you not buy?
Love that.
And what will happen is those people that just spent money with you, who want to see you succeed because, now they're invested in what you're doing, tell you the parts that were confusing, tell you the parts that they didn't understand, where there was some friction. And I would say that realistically, that's probably been 6 out of 10 of our biggest wins over the
Wow.
last several years, which has resulted in millions and millions of dollars in revenue for our clients.
That's massive. It's one of my favorite questions. I love that you bring that up. What almost stopped you from buying? Because that tells
Yeah.
you everything. Just that the mindset, what were they thinking? And then ultimately, what was it that pushed them over the edge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we also do what's called a post-purchase survey. So we ask that question on the pop-up. You get about 20 or 30% of your people will answer it. And so if you're not making a high volume of sales, we also get them through a post-purchase survey where we bribe them with a gift card and ask them to fill out 7 questions, and we give them a gift card that they can come back and spend on the site. And instead of giving a discount, the mentality is, oh, well, I got to go spend money to get that discount. By giving them a
Right.
gift card, they'll come spend it and typically add to it.
Of
So
course.
we have multiple examples where we thought that we were going to be buying data. We needed a certain amount of responses. And when we set it up and give them a gift card, it actually becomes another profit center. So we're getting all of the data that we want that we can use to make the site better and generating a profit from it.
That's brilliant. How did that tactic come about? I mean, how'd you create it, and what's the impact when brands actually act on those answers?
Well, the one that I'm thinking of right now, they have an average order value of about $109. And for them, it's a little over 10 grand a month in profit just
Wow.
from the post purchase survey. And so we've been doing it now on that particular site for over 7 years. So we have thousands and thousands of responses. And it was hard to um, stick with it and keep up with it because we had so many responses. And so now with the GPTs and AI, we took all of those responses in there and started asking it psychological questions and demographic questions. And the insight that we got from it was, even working on the brand for 7 or 8 years, like it gave us so many different angles that we would have never picked up in the nuances, but having that many responses over time gave us a lot of really, really good data that we've been using to generate more revenue.
That's really cool. A lot of our listeners are selling B2B. So they may not have thousands of responses. I mean, maybe if it's product led growth, they'll have quite a few or can get that many. If they're
Sure.
bigger or more enterprise, how can we get that same kind of information with a
Yeah,
smaller
we
sample
figure
size?
we definitely need about 200 in
Okay.
order for it to be statistically significant. Um, and so that's our goal. It's data collection until we get to that number. But you'll still get you'll still see some nuggets in there, and we definitely review them. I'm just saying after 6 or 7 years, because they just every single time we put them into the spreadsheet of their answers for those 7 questions, and it's very specific the way that we do it, so that we're not leading them. They have to do it they have to fill it out within 48 hours to get the gift card,
Okay.
because beyond that, then they're making stuff up. And so we're
Yeah.
we're very particular of exactly how we do it, and that post purchase survey has always driven tons and tons of results. So, and our goal is always 200 or more. Once you have 200, you're going to get some really good statistical significance from it.
Is that just to filter out the things that maybe the outliers or the people who are
Mm.
just filling out to get the gift card, they don't really remember, but it's just
Yeah,
doing the thing.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some mathematical formula that 200 responses is similar to like 400,000 survey, um, sent out. So it that's the number that we've figured out from looking at statistical significance for testing. And so once we have that, we know that from there on we're good.
So let's dig a little bit deeper into conversion optimization. I think a lot of brands are, people who are kind of focusing that they obsess over things like button color or images. What really makes a difference? What is it that drives additional sales, or what kind of copy moves the needle in conversions?
Yeah. So what I would say, there's a couple different principles. One, it needs to be so simple that Homer Simpson would understand it. That's what we
Love
always
that.
say. And by doing that, what happens is a lot of times your product and you think more is better. The more I tell them, the better. That provides clarity. And the truth of the matter is, text is only about 6% of our communication, and
Mm,
people fill in the rest of it with their own beliefs. And so there has to be, it has to be super simple and clear. We always say clarity trumps persuasion. So when you're trying to use persuasive copy, um, it might work for certain audiences, but very, very few is it ever going to beat a control of something that's just very simple and clear. And so that's one. Another one is the hierarchy of focus. And so people think like, oh, I want to test my button color. We know for a fact that the button color doesn't really matter, other than the fact that you don't want your button color to match the rest of the page.
Mm.
So it needs to stand out. So the hierarchy of focus is, what is the next most important action you want them to take? And it needs to stand out like a sore thumb. And so if your theme is black and yellow, you don't use a black or yellow button. If it's green, you don't use a green button. The thing that matters the most on the button is actually the text, not the color, and that it stands out. Um, Also, the paradox of choice, and people will tell you a confused, confused buyer is not, or a confused browser is not going to become a buyer.
Right.
And so again, still pointing towards that clarity. Get them to, if you're just trying to sell one main idea, that's going to always work better than the paradox of choice. If they have multiple options, a lot of times that hurts conversions quite a bit, even though people think like, oh, well, it broadens the offer so that more people can say yes.
Right.
And it confuses it.
It makes so much sense. What is an example of maybe, a poorly written button or form field that causes confusion or friction? And what's a small change you can make that has a measurable impact?
Yeah. So buy now, you see that on homepages, on buttons for the different things. And they're not actually buying now. Typically, you're sending them to the options. So you could put learn more or more options.
Okay.
And so what we do is each button is a micro commitment to move them to the next step. Buy now actually jump past 4 or 5 of those steps. And in their mind, that's a block, and they have to
Yeah.
think through it. They're like, "Oh, I'm not ready to buy yet."
Right.
And so that little hindrance actually creates less sales. So if you get in the habit of just the very next step, so then even when you're on the product page, it wouldn't be buy now, it would be add to cart. And then once it's in the cart, it wouldn't be buy now, it would be proceed to checkout. And then when you're in the checkout, then it would be buy now or complete, you know. And so each one of those, the more micro we made it, the higher the conversions. So you're literally just getting them to go to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. And people don't want to click on a button that they don't know where it's taking them. And if they're not ready to buy now is like the worst thing in the world,
Right.
to put on it. But yet that's what all the themes have. That's what developers do, because they don't run those tests like that. They're just basically building online store catalog, or essentially all your products, with buttons.
Which makes sense. But I've seen that all over the place. And you're right. I look at it like, well, I don't want to buy it yet. I don't even know what the price is.
Right, right. The other thing, yeah, we always say that the right information at the right time, and I got that from Dean Jackson's, where he says, enter the conversation that they're having in their head.
So good.
So if they're on your category page, the thought process in their head, their conversation that they're having at that point isn't, boy, I sure wish I could buy this. It's which options do I have, or what can I choose?
Yeah.
And then when you get to the product page, um, you know, what are the details, or what's in it for me? So many sites that I see, when I go over it, I'm like, well, this is all about you. It's not about the customer at all. And so they don't realize how easy it is to talk about themselves and all these different features and things like that, and it has nothing to do with the person that's actually wanting to buy it.
How do we change our mindset and really shift that focus instead of, writing copy that's about us, write copy that's about them and something that really resonates? How do we enter that conversation? I mean, Dean is so brilliant. How do we enter that conversation that they're having in their mind?
Yeah, so we do it a couple different ways. One, we do user testing. So we actually have people visit the site for the very first time. We give them a set of actions that we want them to take, and they're recording their voice and their screen while they're doing it. So we can see if they can figure it out, if they're reading it, they're understanding it, things like that. The other thing I always tell the owners of the businesses when I'm consulting with them, that you need a small paradigm shift. Instead of looking at your store as how do I sell more stuff, visit your store as a first time user and try to figure out how you solve your problem. How does your, if I go there, whatever problem that your software solves, when I go there, how does that describe that to me? If I have that problem, how do I figure out that it solves it? And so most sites are written from the owner's perspective on how do I sell more, not from the buyer's perspective on how do I solve my problem.
It's really good. How do we avoid using jargon or the kind of the assumed knowledge? Because we know a lot about our product, we know a lot about the problem. I think it's really easy to describe it multiple steps down the path and not take buyers with us because we just made a
Yeah.
leap that they don't know how to make.
Yeah, I think that's where, like I said, I think the education part of it, depending on your product, needs to have multiple steps. It can't go from, okay, I think this will solve my problem to buy now. It has to be like, what are the problems that it solves? And the other thing that I always do is I make sure that I don't force everybody to read everything, because when your page is laid out where all of the stuff that you do is not separated, now I have to read everything in order to find the part that applies to me.
Mhm.
If I have it broken down to, this is one problem, here's how we solve it, this is another problem, here's how we solve it, because the buyer might go, oh, I only have this one problem and I want to know if it does that, but I don't want to read for 15 minutes to figure it out if it does it. So you're gonna lose people just from that. So having things browsable instead of forcing them to read big walls of text and things like that, let them self-identify what they want, and then give it to them that way.
You mentioned a mistake earlier, and that is having too much copy. And because you try to get everything out there, I don't want them to come to my site and then leave because they didn't find what they were looking for. So, here's
I'm going to
everything I could
overwhelm them.
possibly do. How do we
Yeah, so
avoid that
instead they
trap?
overwhelm them.
Yeah. How do we avoid that and but still hit the problems, but make it where it is digestible and makes sense to them?
Yeah, and that's kind of the magic sauce. And I would be naive to think that I just automatically know that for each site because they are contextual. What I would say is um, test. And what we try to do right away is, it's shocking how much copy is written as filler instead of being very direct and to the point. And so many times we'll just go through and reduce it by 30%. 70% of or the copy could be more than enough when it's written in a way that's much more direct. And doing that always yields results. And then we also tag and look at the data. So we're looking at what people are clicking on, how far they're scrolling down, where the conversions, if they're watching a video and they watch it 3/4 of the way and then they convert at a high percentage, we'll go find out what information they just got in the video at that point, figure out a way to get that up above the fold. So using the data and analytics is a huge, like that really is why we win predictably, because the data doesn't lie and it's very agnostic. It doesn't care what the emotions were going on. It's going to tell you exactly what they're doing on the site. And we can go, oh, okay, this is clearly how people are seeing this. How do we get them to take more actions that we want them to
Yeah.
take?
And when you do that, when you take that and the piece where they convert, so the video, they're like, okay, I got it, and then they convert. You move that to the top and make that a key point. Do you
Yeah,
then measure conversion again? With that
100%.
headline, because
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
they
yeah.
needed it in a certain order.
Yeah. So the other thing that I will tell you is success leaves clues. So this is a damaging admission. We used to have a win, and then we would go, oh great, that won, now let's find something else to test, and we'd test something else, and probably in split testing 2 or 3 out of 10 win. 2 or 3 will be clear, and then the other one, or like a push, what we would call. It could go either way, and then we just decide which one's more clear, and then maybe 5 of them don't win at all, they lose. And so what we realized is when we find a winner, how many other places on the page can we put that? So if it was winning in a video, how about if we put it on the page in text? And then if that gets us another lift on the page, then how do we put it on the page in an infographic? And if that gets us another
Oh, I
lift,
like
then how
that.
do we do it as a and so literally we keep doing that. We can build off of those wins, knowing that that's a hot button. How many, because not everybody looks at the page the same way.
Right.
Some people watch videos, some people read, some people look at every single thing on the entire page and watch the videos. And so knowing that, when you find something that wins, try to find as many different ways that you can put that winning element on the page where it fits in, and you'll continue to see lifts. So then that gave us multiple other, that now we started winning 4 or 5 times out of 10 instead of 1 or 2 times out of 10.
That's so smart. I think we create pages and even copy, and we're like, we already said that. We can't really say it again, but
Right.
that's not true at all. Of course you
Not at
can,
all.
and you probably should. If it is a hot button, I
Yeah,
love that.
especially in like I said, some people want facts, some people want paragraphs, some people want pictures, and so all the different ways that you can get that winning element on the page, once you know that it creates a lift, we will continue to get a lift after 3 or 4 times, and until then, when we get a diminishing return, then we go look for something new to test. But whenever we have a win, we try to replicate that in as many places as possible.
So smart. What if a leadership book and a Netflix drama had a baby? That is The Captain's Keys, Storms, Emotional Wreckage, and a surprisingly practical leadership system that one CEO called the owner's manual and never got for 20 years of leadership. Here is the brutal truth. You're probably drowning in LinkedIn connections while starving for real relationships. I hear it all the time. Most leaders are exhausted from playing the lone hero, and it's killing both your results and your sanity. The Captain's Keys reveals a new leadership framework, the stability matrix, 4 specific relationships that prevent burnout while multiplying your impact. And this isn't just theory. It's a system that I've used to scale companies and taught over 1,000 executive leaders. So grab your copy today at thecaptainskeys.com, Amazon, or choose your own adventure, print, ebook, or audio. Stop drowning alone and build your stability matrix. So people do consume information in different ways, and we can't assume that just because we said it in a video or put it in a headline somewhere that they're going to stumble across that. So I
Yeah,
love that.
100%.
Take those hot buttons and put them in multiple places, multiple formats. I think that's something we miss out a lot on is just really thinking about different formats and how do we communicate the same thing in multiple ways? Because it really isn't repetitive, especially if it's a hot button. I think it just reaffirms what they're looking for.
Yeah, and the truth of the matter is I can look at a page and see the things that are relevant to me and totally miss multiple elements. And someone else who has a different frame of reference is going to look at the page and they're going to catch the headline. We do site critiques, and we do them company wide. So we'll put a site up and everybody will sit there and say things about it. And it's crazy how many things are pointed out by other people. And I go, wow, I literally never even saw that until you just said that. And so, yeah, we don't look at things the same way, and thinking that everybody does is definitely hurting. And we did that, 8, 9 years ago 10 years ago when we first started. For the first couple of years, we were always testing new things. And then one time we were like, wow, that one, how many other places can we put a winner on the page? And we got several other wins in a row. And then that just kind of became our new practice. So we didn't always do it right, but now we do.
That's really, really smart. I think a lot of people will be looking at their websites a little bit differently. How do you do that if you don't know what the winners are? How do you know how to run those tests and how long until you really have a result to find the hot buttons?
Yeah, we certainly have like a set of best practices that we've learned that most of the time don't require a test. That's just a clarity issue. Um, but other than that, I really think you need to understand your data on the website as far as like what people are clicking on, what's the most highest visited pages, uh, how are they navigating or how are they using the menu, things like that. And so, like I said, the data is agnostic; it doesn't care um,
Yeah.
what they're thinking, or it just tells you exactly what they're doing. And so, you really need that information first. It's the very first thing that we do when we engage with a client. We talk about the data and see how accurate their data is, and if it's not, we get that corrected first, and then we let essentially the people that are browsing the site and voting for your product with their wallet uh, help us. They help lead us through the path of what's working, and then we go figure out how to make that work better and in more places.
I like that. When you have a situation like that where you've got multiple people that are giving feedback and you end up with a long list of issues, how do you
Yeah.
prioritize what to do first? Which pages do you optimize first when you've got lots and lots of weak spots, especially in an early stage business?
We always start with where the transaction takes place, because if I optimize your homepage, that just gets them to the next step. It doesn't make you any more money. And then if I optimize your filters, your category page, that doesn't make you any more money, because that just gets them to the product page. And if I optimize the product page, it just gets them to the cart page. So we start on the back end, we optimize the checkout first, then we optimize the cart, then the product page, then the filters, then the homepage. Because every step at that point, when we optimize it, it generates more revenue. One way it would take 4 or 5 months before you see the new revenue. The other way, the new revenue starts almost overnight.
I like that. It's almost like theory of constraints. So the
Yeah.
constraint is the conversion page. So you start
Yep.
there, and that's going to be the constraint, and then you're backing up to the beginning of what that journey
Yep.
looks like.
Yeah. So then each step of the journey, as we make it better, they make more money. Our goal is always to be an income source, not an expense. And so, in order to do that, like we want them to see money from the results as fast as possible.
Yeah. Well, definitely in SaaS and e-commerce as well, friction kills momentum. And
Yep.
whether that's multiple button clicks or not really sure, just like the buy now, well, I'm not ready to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your playbook for reducing friction while still capturing quality leads and conversions?
Hmm. I think it would go back to simplicity. It's not rocket science. What we do, the data does tell us what people are clicking on, and I would say the first 5 or 6 months that we work on a site, a lot of the stuff that we're doing is removing all the parts that people aren't using, and the site just gets cleaner, faster, clearer. And it really, I would say the number one issue is that people put too much on their website, thinking that that's going to make it easier for people to decide. And really, 20% of your visitors are going to produce 80% of your results. But most of the sites are optimized for the 80%
Yeah.
that are the loudest and have the most trouble understanding. And it's not your ideal customer.
So how do we know what to take off? And then if we take stuff off, does that affect SEO or AIO and those kinds of things? Do we not be are we not found because we don't have the right things on there?
Yeah, it's for sure. You got to do both, but reducing the copy and having 3 bullet points instead of 10 or 20,
Yeah.
and putting things behind tabs, all of that works. Progressive disclosure. I don't. I'm not just saying like just chop off a whole bunch and see what the results are. It's very strategic. You're getting rid of what they're already not using, and
Right.
then what happens is, like, anybody that drives into the office every morning, um, after a while, they've done it so many times, they don't remember if they stopped at the stoplight. They don't remember,
Right.
if they don't remember passing the store that's, on the right hand side every day, and all these different things. Your website's the same way. Like, you've seen it so many times. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's happening on there that you're just totally unaware of. And it's just the way that our brain works. And so until you start removing stuff and it looks a little bit different, your brain's not really going to even acknowledge a whole bunch of what's on there.
That makes a lot of sense. And if they're not visiting those pages anyway, why bother having them? But I know that there's always the excuse of what if I'm going to
Yeah.
lose a conversion because somebody didn't find what they needed? It
Yeah.
seems
Then
unfounded.
have live chat. It's much better.
Right.
Live chat converts amazing. And it's amazing how many people don't use it. Like, every store that we have that we're partners with that uses it, it's one of the highest converting places on their entire site. It just, so many people give up so much money by not wanting to interact with the customer. And now, even with AI, you can feed in all the product details and a bunch of other things. The live chats with the AI convert very high, because for one, the AI isn't ever in a bad mood. They
Right.
don't care if it came in at 11:30 at night or 2 a.m. They're going to answer the same way. You can even tell it what tone to answer questions in, and it's going to know the product knowledge inside out because you've fed it the documents that apply to what you're doing. There's absolutely zero reason to not use that now.
Oh, that's really smart. I think about it when I go to a site, if they don't have live chat, I usually don't stay long. Either I can't find what I need immediately,
Yeah,
or yeah, and if they have live chat, or a lot of times there's one question. I don't have to search a
yeah,
whole site to answer the question. And maybe I'll try search, but I just want to ask them a question. And
yeah.
it's real simple, pass fail, get the right answer. Let's do this. And if I
Yeah, I
don't,
mean, if you think about it, if you answered the phone call with 10 clients or 10 potential clients, what's your closing percentage? Hopefully, if you're the owner of the product, it's probably 50, 60%. But a website converts at 2 or 3%. So essentially, what that means is, those people that would be buyers are still potential buyers, but your website's not communicating with them the same way that you would in a conversation. And so,
yeah,
uh, I think, again, getting back to being crystal clear about exactly who you're talking to and who is your ideal client, which isn't everybody.
right.
When I ask people, well, who is best served by, oh, my client, my tool works for everyone. I'm like, well, then, you're going to have a hard time selling it,
Yep.
because, yeah, it just has to be specific. And if you can describe their problem that they're having better than they can, they're going to automatically assume you're the solution. So I would say, essentially 70% of your website needs to be discussing the problem. 20% of it needs to be, the path to get that problem solved. And then the last 10% is the pitch, which is basically getting them to buy it.
It's really, really smart to think about it that way. And you're right. It's when you can describe the problem better than they do, then you've got them.
They
You've
automatically
captured
think
them.
you understand.
Right, right. Because
Yeah.
obviously you know a lot more than most of the other companies out there because you understand what the real issues are, and they assume that you have the solution because you understand the problem that needs to be solved.
Well, the other thing is, you're talking about them too, not yourself. So when you're talking about the problem, that they relate to that. When you're selling yourself, believe it or not, they're like going, okay, I'm being sold. But
Right.
if you're just describing the problem, they don't feel like they're being sold. They feel like they're aligning with you.
Yeah. When we're talking about ourselves, I see this a lot where home pages in particular, they're just overloaded with product features. How do you coach clarity when the product does 10 things at once or they do have a fairly broad audience?
I would still go back to the 80/20. Like, what's the 20% that gets to 80% of the visitors? Um, Paradox of choice always always messes people up. And so they're not probably coming to you with 10 different problems. They have one that they need solved is what sent them on their chase. And so I would figure out, what's the two or three main ones. And you can do that by, like, again, look at all your customer service logs. What's the main thing? Or go find your competitor's product and read the reviews or read the reviews on your own. What's
Yep.
everybody talking about? They're probably not talking about the 10 things that you solved. They're probably talking about two or three. And so I would make it focus on those two or three. And always that works.
That's really, really good. Yeah, well, I think we make it a lot harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes things are working good and we'll break it just because we need something to fix. It's terrible, but we do it.
You're right. You're right. That happens a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something's not broken, so we must think that something's wrong.
Yeah. Or let's go try this new idea
Right.
and abandon the one that's working.
Yeah, let's test something else.
Yeah.
That's good. What would you say to founders who are obsessed with redesigning everything from scratch? When I mean, sometimes the fix is small, or it's just looking at data, but they look at it. Hey, this isn't working. Let's just scrap this and start over.
Yeah. I have that conversation a lot. They go, oh, yeah, we want to do a site redesign. And I'm like, why? Does that make you feel good, or is that going to increase your conversions? A lot of times they're just bored of looking at the same site and they want it to be new and fresh,
Right.
but they don't realize that the 80% of their visitors are brand new to their site. They've never
Never
seen it.
seen it.
And so they're looking at it through their lens of, I'm the business owner. I want it to make more sales, instead of I'm the customer trying to find the solution to my problem. 9 times out of 10, you don't need a site redesign. You need to remove about 50-60% of what's on your site and make it a lot clearer.
That's good. What's
And
a
if you do it,
maybe a low cost or no cost optimization that you'd recommend? I mean, every company test, no matter their industry or funnel complexity or anything else.
yeah, put the question on the thank you page. What's the one thing that almost made you not
I
buy?
love that.
It doesn't cost a penny for them to do that. It's the biggest win that they'll ever get.
Wow, that's absolute gold.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, it's literally translated into tens of millions of dollars for us. We had one site is doing about 60 million a year. We got a 10% lift on their cart from it because it was a VSL, and we got 420 or 520 responses, and 90% of them said the video is too long. And the
Wow.
owner said, no, we can't shorten the video, because every time we do that, we lose conversions. And so about 15 minutes later after the call, I thought about, like, I never watch videos on 1x. What if we were able to speed it up to 1.25 or 1.5? And so we gave people that option and put a little arrow and said, adjust speed. And that little thing gave them a 10% lift as a $6 million win for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really smart because you're right. I mean, a lot of times, even audiobooks, at
Yeah.
least 1.2, sometimes 1.5 if the speaker's slow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so now you've effectively made the video shorter by
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
that.
They get through it quicker.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's really what they want is they want to get to the outcome faster.
And they still got all the same information, which is what was creating the better conversion anyways.
Yeah. That's really smart. I think a lot of people would have tried to figure out how to just redo the video
Right.
and we need to go reshoot it and what are we going to cut out and then you don't know.
And I've literally never seen such a one-sided set of answers. It was easily over 90% of the answers were the video is too long.
Wow. That's pretty good. What's
Yeah.
maybe a myth or a topic that you keep having to bust that people think it's true and you keep having to explain to them that that's really not the way the world works?
Um, I would say button color is one.
Yeah.
Um, the other one would be their logo and stuff like that. Like, nobody cares about your logo. You're not Nike. And I tell them, you don't have a brand until you could stop running ads and you can still survive in business. That's a brand. Until then, you just have a good funnel that works. And so stop getting hung up on the things that don't create better conversions. The way that you build a brand is making more sales, not having a fancy looking page.
Oh, that's good. You're right. We really obsess over the look, and I think we want to think we do have brands.
Yeah. And that's easier to do than testing. And so it's,
It is.
our mind automatically goes to, I'm going to do the easy thing. I'm not going to do the hard thing. And it costs you a lot of money. The people that do the hard thing consistently, even when they don't feel like it, which is testing, are the ones that continue to increase, or weather the storms.
Yeah. Or founders that are listening that want to increase conversions without adding more budget to what they're doing or more complexity to the process. What's the one change you would recommend them test this week that could unlock meaningful results?
I would say look at their page as a consumer and see how much they can remove, and see how much of the page talks about them rather than the problem. And yeah, probably the text on the buttons. For we always get a lift when we change that, and so I know that works very well too.
So for the text on the buttons, it's all about that micro commitment to get them to the next step and the next step and the
Yeah,
next step.
people don't want to click on something they don't know where it's going to take them, and
Yeah.
so if you give them a micro step, they're willing to take that way more time. So like we've seen as much as a 17% lift just by removing buy now and put add to cart.
Yeah, that's much safer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Than buy now
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And then we say add to cart, and then we say proceed to checkout. Like we don't put buy now in there.
Yeah. There would be some that would argue that it needs to be a one-click process, like the checkout and make that, smooth and remove friction. What's your take on that versus adding the kind of the step-by-step and walking them through?
We've tried like PayPal is typically about 30% of sales for the cart, and we've tried introducing that button before the cart, on the product page, in the cart, and we can never get that to be having it on the checkout step. And so offering it to them sooner, it actually feels like a broken experience. And if they click that and then abandon, you don't have any of their information, so you can't even follow up with
Oh,
them.
wow. Yeah, you're
So
right.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that probably works if you do have a brand like an Amazon. They can probably get away with it, but that's the danger of taking something from a company that's up here and trying to apply it to your business. That there's just we're, none of us are Amazon. We don't have that
right.
brand
Yeah, I definitely
recognition. And
think one click is amazing after the first purchase. We do that all the time.
okay,
And so it works very well then after they've already got their dopamine hit from the sale, to offer one click. But it just doesn't, for us, we've never been able to get that test to win.
any big secrets to getting somebody to come back and do repeat purchases or continue to engage with the brand on an ongoing
Yeah,
basis?
treat them like your mom.
Ooh, that's
Stop
good.
stop treating them like you're just trying to get another sale. Like really engage with them, create a relationship, provide content. If 7 out of 10 of your emails are a sale and a promo, then you've basically conditioned them not even to read them, because nobody needs your product 7 times a week. And
Right.
so learn how to communicate with people like you do in the real world, instead of looking at your site as how do I make more sales. Look at how am I actually valuable to the people that want my problem, or want my solution to solve their problem.
That's awesome. Well, where can people learn more about you online?
Buildgrowscale.com, and my email is matt@buildgrowscale.com. If you send me an email, happy to jump on and do an audit of your site with you and see if we can provide some value.
Outstanding. We'll make sure and link that in the show notes and get some people have their sites checked out. I think that's a great next step. Micro commitments.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Matthew, it's been a great conversation. Thanks for being on SaaS Fuel.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks again, Matt, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and insights. You can learn more about Matthew Stafford and Build, Grow, Scale at buildgrowscale.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. We have full video episodes, shorts, outtakes, trainings, lots more resources over there for you on YouTube. Thought leaders share. Share this episode with someone who's optimizing their morning routine all the way down to the nanosecond, including blinking. Everyone who shares this week gets a productivity cape. It flaps dramatically every time you time block your calendar and repels meetings that could have been Looms. Anybody have those problems? Yeah, this meeting could have been an email. Can AI agents finally make SEO accessible for the rest of us? Our next guest, Carl Holden, shares how RankBot is helping founders improve off-page SEO and AIO through smart backlinks, keyword tracking, and optimization. And it's all powered by AI agents and simple workflow. If SEO has ever felt like a mystery, this episode brings clarity and tells you what's happening in that market today. Then after, we have Michelle Griffin. She joins us to share how she's scaling Griffin Resources, a fractional support platform helping founders grow without the bloat. From hourly HR to no retainer recruiting, it's the flexibility that founders have been waiting for. I will see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/saasfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.